Welcome back to YTT. Remember, here we always tell you we use yesterday's eyes to see today, that obviously we should understand the future, and that's why we are called Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow podcast. And our conversation today is captivating. It is that conversation that has been, sparking controversy in the circles of the Adventist movement, the SDA Church. It is the topic of the fourth angel's message. Many are asking, is there really a fourth angel's message? Others are saying there is no, others are saying there is. But today, we've brought a guest on set who is going to discuss that with us, and that is Brother Norman Archer. Welcome on YTT.
Thank you, my brother. I'm happy to be here in Zambia to comment on that point. I'm a Jamaican, but I've been living in the USA for over 30 years.
Ah, great.
So I am well acquainted with the point you're making, because that controversy have confronted it from I was 19 years old in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And that was when I was first introduced to the fourth angel message.
Great.
And I've done a great research on that matter.
Great. Now, as we get into this conversation, let me just give you this icebreaker question. Brother Norman Archer, if you were given superpowers to change one thing about the Seventh-day Adventist Church, what would that be?
Well, the greatest need of the Adventist Church today worldwide is a revival and reformation. Because as you go across the world and observe what's going on in the Adventist Church, we can see the church leading to worldliness.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a revival that we can represent God's church to the world in a proper light.
Great. Now, let's get back now to understanding you. You gave hints. Who is Norman Archer? Let's begin from there. Little details there as we just build up the conversation. Who is Norman Archer? Where were we born from? Where were we raised from?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am a Jamaican.
Okay.
And after leaving high school, I went to work at a library. And in that library, there was an Adventist man.
Okay.
And he worked very hard on me. And eventually, I became an Adventist. I got baptized.
Okay.
And after I was baptized, the boss says, we have one Adventist in this library, and we don't want two, so you're fired. So I'm fired, right? I'm fired because I become an Adventist. That was really strange.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't make a big issue of that. I decided to look another job. Now, being one who has elevated in the science, I decided to go to the hospital in the laboratory because I love to do laboratory work.
Okay.
So I entered the hospital as a medical technologist.
Okay.
So my background is a med tech. But after that, I was introduced to the fourth angel's message. And after doing a research on it, I realized that this is solid business. It is a solid message. It is to elevate the church to a higher level.
Okay.
So I eventually accepted that message. And I introduced the message because this message has a lot to say about 144,000. It's like one of the main themes, 144,000.
Yeah.
So I shared that view with a member of my church, and she went and told the pastor that I am a Jehovah's Witness. Because, Jehovah's Witnesses love to talk about 144,000.
Yeah.
So the pastor came, said, Brother Archer, I understand you become a Jehovah's Witness. I said, no, Pastor, you heard something, but you hear the wrong news there. I am studying with some brethren they call the shepherd's rod. Say, what, brother? That's worse than Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
So I said, Pastor, what's wrong with it? Tell me. It is just error, brother. I said, that's not good enough for me. Tell me what is wrong with it.
Yeah.
He could not tell me what is wrong with it. He just says error. Say, well, I'll do my own research.
Okay.
And find out whether it is error or not. And finally, after my research, I realized that this really is the message of the hour, and it makes me a better Seventh-day Adventist. It didn't lead me away from the church. It made me a better Seventh-day Adventist. And some years after that, because that was in Jamaica, And maybe, 3 years or so, I migrated to the USA. And from that point on, I became more involved, and I became actually a full-time preacher for this message, because I was so convinced that this is very important for the church members to understand. So I let it become my life, I dedicated my life to that, to promote this message.
So at the time you meet this message, it's after now you get baptized, you get into the faith, you get baptized, and later you get to meet the message of the Shepherd's Road. That is in Jamaica.
Yes.
Around what year is that? Yeah.
Okay, that was about 1973.
73. Wow, great.
It's a long time.
Yeah. So now you migrate to the US.
Yes.
And there you get more involved.
Yes. When I get into the USA, I was able to get all the books that was published by the Shepherd's Rod publications, and then I did my own research. And I was convinced that everything that I've read in these publications were backed up by the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. And then I realized that it was important to become a vegetarian, so I became a vegetarian. And I've been a vegetarian possible, 50 years.
50 years?
Yes.
Could that be part of the secret as to why you are this energetic enough to...
Well, possible. I'm very health conscious. And I try to eat and drink the right way.
Yeah.
And exercise. I work hard, because although I'm in this business, I always have my little farm, planting my garden and all that. So I'm always in touch with the earth.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Because, I listened to you yesterday in your presentation. You said, I'm 77. But the energy, the long hours that you stood making your presentation, I said, this man, there should be a secret. Anyway, we might maybe have some other time to dive into that now.
Yes.
The reason why we brought you here is we want you to share the conviction, actually, what convinced you to get into this message. You're saying you're based on the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. And basically, that's the conversation that we want to have here now. In understanding the issue of the fourth angel's message, where do we begin from?
Where do we begin from?
Yeah.
Now, the foundation is right back to the spirit of prophecy.
Okay.
I have a bunch of references in front of me, and I will read a few of them that may help us to understand.
Okay.
Now, I remember back in Jamaica, I mentioned to a brother, an elder of the church, that there's a fourth angel message. And he wanted to call the police on me. You need to leave this church. There's no fourth angel, And I know there is a fourth angel's message. But what is most interesting is that this idea of a fourth angel's message, which sounds so strange, I just happened to read in the 2013 Sabbath School lesson, and I'm going to bring that forth.
Okay.
2013 Sabbath School lesson, the third quarter, page 105 to 107. The church actually published in that quarterly that there is a fourth angel's message. And many people would have read that and just passed by as if nothing was said.
Yeah.
But let me explain what's going on here. We have the first, second, and third angel's message. That's Revelation 14.
Okay.
And there's another angel mentioned in Revelation 18. And it says that when that angel comes down from heaven, the earth is light with his glory. And a voice was heard calling God's people out of Babylon. So it's very important. It's like having a car with 4 gears. Okay. And all this while you are just driving in the third gear, and you want to get to maximum speed. You'll not get to maximum speed in third gear because your car has 4 gears.
Okay.
So that's the situation the church is in right now. They're trying to get maximum speed. They're trying to convert the world, but only basing themselves upon the third angel's message. They need to move on to the fourth angel's message, because that's where the power comes. Because it is in Revelation 18, it said that a voice was heard calling God's people out of Babylon. So that's the stage that we need to get to. So we want the church to leave the third stage and move to the fourth stage. Now, I'm going to look at a reference here in the quarterly.
Okay.
And this is a very important statement here from the quarterly. It says, the challenge of preaching the gospel in the context of the three angels' message to the entire world may seem impossible. Although the Seventh-day Adventist Church is growing rapidly, it is not keeping up with the population. There are multiple areas of the world where the name Seventh-day Adventist, much less the message, is not known. So here the church is saying we have a problem here. We have near 6 billion people. There are 25 million Adventists. How are we going to get the message? So this comment is saying it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Now, what is the solution? So they went on to say this. Listen to this. The reality of this harsh fact leads to serious questions. Is it possible for the gospel to be preached to the entire world in this generation? Will there be some unusual breakthrough that will dramatically speed up the proclamation of the third angel's message? Big question. Is there something dramatic to take place?
Yeah.
There's always one thing to keep in mind when we discuss this topic. The mission is God's, and He will accomplish it. At the same time, however, we must remember that we have been called to a crucial role in the final work as well. Now, just to continue what they are saying, and I go down here now, the same quarterly is now making a comment. And here's what it says. The angel who unites in the proclamation of the third angel's message is to lighten the earth with his glory.
Yeah.
A work of worldwide extent and unwanted power is therefore told. So they are quoting here from the Great Controversy, 611. And the Great Controversy, 611, says, the angel who unites in the proclamation of the third angel's message is lighten the earth with his glory. That's Revelation 18:1.
Yeah.
So here the quarterly is saying that we must have another angel to unite with the third. And this is the quarterly speaking.
Okay.
You know? Now, continuing there in the Great Controversy, 611, what will happen when this other angel join the third?
Yeah.
They quote here the Great Controversy. Here's what it says. The work will be similar to that of the day of Pentecost. As the former rain was given in the outpouring of the Holy Spirit at the opening of the gospel to cause the upspringing of the precious seed, so the latter rain will be given at its close for the ripening of the harvest. So what is showing here that when we discuss the fourth angel's message, it is portraying a Pentecostal period.
Yeah.
So the SDA church one day must merge into what is called a Pentecostal period, a second Pentecost. That is the only way that this church can really address the 6 billion people that are on earth.
Yeah.
Our present way of doing missionary work isn't going to help. And that's why the writer was there saying it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Because the population in the world is growing so fast, we can't even get to cope with them. But there is going to be a breakthrough, and the breakthrough is when this fourth angel comes along and the church moves into a period called the loud cry, or a period of having a manifestation of second Pentecost.
Yeah, great.
So this is the key point that we have been trying to portray to the church all these years, that the church is God's church. Nothing is wrong with the Adventist church. It is God's true church, but you are not keeping pace with the light. And that's all we are here as shepherds and believers trying to say, brethren, keep pace with the light.
Okay.
You are in the right church, but you need to keep pace with God's agenda.
Now, as you're just on that point, I always want you to stress out the understanding that what we need is not a new message, but Pentecostal power, so that the third angel's message can be taken to the whole world. Now, I want you also to address that part, that what we need is not a new message, but just Pentecostal power, which is represented by the angel of Revelation 18, so the third angel's message can reach out to the whole world.
Well, I wouldn't totally say not a new message, because each angel brings a message. So there is a message, but the same message is right within our message. And sometimes when one may try to explain the fourth angel's message, it sounds strange and you think it's a strange doctrine, but it's coming from the same Bible and Spirit of Prophecy. Okay. Let me draw your attention to a reference here from Testimony 6, 406. That may make it clearer. We are to throw aside our narrow, selfish plans, remembering that we have a work of the largest magnitude and highest importance. In doing this work, we are sounding the first, second, and third angels' messages, and are thus being prepared for the coming of that other angel from heaven who is lighting the earth with his glory. Clearly, there's 4 angels there. 3 came first, and 1 came later. So that is the point we're trying to make here, brethren. We are not prepared for this other angel, and that's why when we try to explain the other angel, we sound as if we are talking strange doctrine. But it's a part of a message. It's nothing new. It's the same message. But you are just ignorant.
Great. So, what is the need for the other angel? Like, what's the work of this other angel? Why do we need this other angel?
Why do we need this other angel? Now, I'm going to move on to another point here.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to read to you from a document published by the General Conference of the SDA Church. 1973. It is called Annual Council Appeal. Annual Council Appeal. And I'm going to refer to that. I like to refer to the church documents to let you realize that we are not off track on some strange things. We are talking here about your own business. So I'm here now discussing a point from the Seventh-day Adventist Church Annual Council Appeal, 1973. It says there, we are not the first leaders of the Adventist history to feel the urgency of preparing the church for the fullness of the latter rain experience, the loud cry of the third angel's message. In the triumphant return of our awaited Lord. Often God's messenger to the remnant people made this appeal, especially specific were her words written in 1892. And we are now going to quote from Ellen G. White, which the conference is quoting, right? It says, the loud cry of the third angel has already begun in the revelation of righteousness of Christ, the sin-pardoning Redeemer. This is the beginning of the light of the angel whose glory shall fill the whole earth. And they're quoting from a book called Christ or Righteousness, page 56. Now, let me go further on. This statement is an inspired declaration that the fulfillment of Revelation 18:1-4, in which another angel joins the 3 angels of Revelation 14, is to lighten the earth with his glory, had begun. So here they are acknowledging that there is to be another angel to join the third angel, and that angel is Revelation 18:1-4. And that is what we'll bring about the latter rain experience. So let me just continue here. From the same document. In the 4 years following the historic Minneapolis General Conference, the fresh, compelling emphasis on righteousness by faith had arose the Adventist Church in such a way that Ellen White could say the loud cry had begun. Now, it is interesting to see what is brought to view here now. Minneapolis. What is this Minneapolis situation about? You see, in 1888, there was a general conference session held at Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the USA. And at that conference meeting, 2 ministers, Jones and Wagner, presented the need of this fourth angel. And it was a big controversy. You see, it was a big controversy. So here, the church today, I wouldn't say today, but 1973, are reflecting back to that incident in 1888. Trying to bring it forward at this time to see what importance can we put to this issue. The message of 1888 by Jones and Wagner. You see? Now look at their next statement. This is General Conference men speaking. One question, therefore, has overshadowed all other subjects at this 1973 annual council. What has happened to the message and experience that by 1892 had brought the beginning of Earth's final message of warning and appeal? So here they are now in 1973 asking, what has happened to that message?
Yeah.
What has happened to it? And here we come now with an answer. The answer is that there's a message that is rejected by you, brethren, back in 1888. And if you shall revive that, then you may understand the way forward. How are we going to get this work finished? Under Pentecostal power. But then the new generation think, when you say those things, they think you're chatting nonsense. But this is an acknowledgement by the General Conference men in 1973 asking the question, what has happened to that message that came in 1888? We have an answer for that.
Okay. Now, great. You introduce a very good concept, and I would want us to get deep into that part. 1888, what's the relationship between 1888 and the angel of Revelation chapter 18? Just give us the nitty-gritties around that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these two men called Jones, Elder Jones and Wagner, A.T. Jones and Wagner, they did some research and they found out that there is a necessity for the church to move on to a Pentecostal experience. And that is not emphasized in the church today. But they saw that need. They presented to the church back then in 1888 and they were rejected. Maybe later on I can quote the reference where Ellen G. White made that point, that it was a rejected message. Okay. So all these years has passed by and no one is really emphasizing that. But in 1930, there was this man called V.T. Yoreff. He decided to put some emphasis on that rejected message of 1888. Revive it, bring light to it.
But why was it rejected in 1888? I'm interested on 1888. You keep on referring to a rejected message, a rejected message, a rejected message. Was it because there was error in that message that the two brethren brought? Or what is happening in 1888 there?
No, it's not because what they were saying was error, because Ellen G. White, the reference that we have just made here was Ellen G. White referring to it. So once she's referring to it, obviously it's good. But another reference, she says, it was a message of rebuke to them. You know, it's just human nature. You believe that you're a big guy. Why should this small guy come along and want to enlighten me? You know, it's just pride of opinion, you know. But what they were saying is that the church needs revival and reformation. But no one wants to hear that word. Now, we make a lot of emphasis on revival. But you see, it is revival and reformation. So revive means you're waking up. Reformation means some changes. So they love to talk about waking up, but nobody wants to make some changes. But it goes together. It is revival and reformation. So Jones and Wagner's message to them was a rebuke. And that they don't like. They don't like nobody coming to rebuke them. So the main reason for the rejection was because the message to them was a rebuke.
And Ellen White affirmed or confirmed that the message was okay.
Was of God, definitely.
But the people couldn't just accept it.
They couldn't accept it, but she told them it was of God.
I'm reliably taught from a lot of Adventist notable men, I can't mention names here, that after the 1888, saga, I don't know if I could put it like that, but after the 1888 event, apologies are made, a mistake is recognized, and the church, we continued now to teach the message of justification by faith. So what's the point of 1930 when after 1888 we actually started talking about the justification of by faith?
Okay, let us make a point as far as Jones and what I was saying. Now, this is going to bring us to an important point. And this will be a comment on Revelation 10, verse 7. It says here, but in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants, the prophet. The mystery of God need to be finished. And that's what we are here as a church to do, is to finish God's mystery. But what is this mystery? Now, when it says here in the voice of the seventh angel, it means the seventh trumpet. Okay, we have 7 seals and we have 7 trumpets.
Yeah.
So in Revelation 10 verse 7, it is referring to the 7th trumpet. So when the 7th trumpet sounds, it says the mystery of God should be finished.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go now to Jones and Wagner. They have a book put out, Lessons on Faith, and see what is their comment on it. And then we see really what was the message that these guys were bringing about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go now to Lessons on Faith and make a point. Lessons on Faith, page 158. And this was part of what Jones and Wagner was portraying. It says here, but what is the mystery of God? Question. Christ in you, the hope of glory. God manifest in the flesh. Then in these days, that mystery is to be finished in the 144,000. God's work in human flesh, God being manifested in human flesh, in you and in me, is to be finished. Now this is a critical moment here. So the mystery of God is to have sinful man living a sinless life in a sinful world. This is what Jones and Wagner was portraying also. Now, it's a big issue in the Adventist church at this time. Can you and I live a sinless life in this time? It's a controversy. Some say, no, you can't live a sinless life. Just love Jesus. But the mystery of God, when it says the mystery of God is finished, it says there, it means that God is able to manifest himself in human flesh. But the mystery says that then in these days, that mystery is to be finished in the 144,000. And that's why when you listen to a Shepherd's Rod message, you're going to hear 144,000, 144,000, 144,000. Because what? We are emphasizing that it is the 144,000 through whom God will manifest himself. So that is a part of what Jones and Wagner was portraying those days. Now, for you in these days to talk about 144,000 is an offense to them. Because 144,000 sounds like a small number. So why are you talking about 144,000? We want to have the great multitude. You see, in Revelation 7, there's mentioned there 144,000 and then a great multitude. So here's the problem. In the book Daniel and Revelation by Uriah Smith, which is the main book that we get our theology from, he explains there that the great multitude of Revelation 7 are resurrected dead people. And the 144,000 are the living saints. But seeing that we cannot believe that when Christ comes, he can only find 144,000 living saints, then we say, well, the 144,000 is now a symbol. It's not literal, it's a symbol. So 144,000 is a symbol of all those who are to be saved in the living generation. But the correction is this. The 144,000 and the great multitude are living saints. So when you understand that the 144,000 and the great multitude are the same, I mean not the same, but they are living saints, then you don't have to try and make the 144,000 become a symbol now. 144,000 means 144,000. There's a special group of people that God will seal in the last days to manifest himself through. So when God manifests himself through this 144,000 living saints, upon them will come the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. Just like the day of Pentecost. 120 disciples received the outpouring of the Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost. And thereafter, they were given Pentecostal power, and then they brought in a great multitude of saints later on. So we have type and antitype. So in this generation, it will not be 120, but 144,000 that God will manifest himself through. Then upon them receive, and upon them will be empowered the Pentecostal power. And then they will go to the Gentile nations under Pentecostal power, speaking all language of the nation. Then they can penetrate the Arab nations, they can penetrate China, they can penetrate Russia, because what? When the 144,000 are sealed, they cannot die. So we're going to have 144,000 saints, empowered the Holy Ghost, going all over the world, cannot die, immune to death, and then they will bring in a great multitude from every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. That's the plan of God. But if you're going to believe the 144,000 is just a symbol, then you're out. If you're going to believe the great multitude are resurrected dead, then you're out. So we have a little problem here with our theology. But when we go back to the Bible and Spirit prophecy, it's all clear. So Jones and Wagner was trying to tell him that, look, it is the 144,000 through whom the mystery of God will be finished. And they don't want to hear nothing about 144,000. So again, that's a problem, because the ministers have an agenda. We're going to baptize as many people as we can. Baptize. But the thing is this, is that a minister gets increments by the amount of people he baptized. So he will be pushing for baptism. And he doesn't care after you baptize. Because, you can baptize a 1,000 today and then 1,000 leave tomorrow. So we need to be spending some time trying to educate those who are in so they stay. And not just in the front door and then back to the back door. No. We want members to come and stay. But they must be educated as to God's agenda and His plan.
Now, you make good points there, clarifying actually what was the actual message of Johnson Waggoner. Now, the message of Johnson Waggoner is rejected at a time. So how does the church progress now? What happens after the message is rejected?
Well, they are on a road that leads nowhere. And that's why my first reference there was the church was saying, we have a challenge. We have a challenge. The population of the world is moving so fast. And then they said, there's a solution. There will be something unusual. So what we need now is to be preparing for that event. You see, before the day of Pentecost came, the disciples had to go in the upper room and have an experience with God. They had to take a break. Yeah. Let's take a break, get ourselves together, that God can manifest Himself through us. But we don't have that plan today. It is just more evangelism. And then they say, the shepherds, they don't do evangelism. They're like parasites, They only come here to take away our members. We're not there to take away no member. We are there to inform you of God's agenda. That's it. But because we are emphasizing the 144,000 through whom the mystery of God is to be finished, then you are offended because you don't like to hear that number. It's too small. It's too small. Don't mention the 144,000 here. And that becomes a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So, again, I come back to this question. So, how I heard you make reference to 1930. How do we get to 1930 from the event in 1880? Is 1930 also connected to Revelation chapter 18?
Well, we could make a side comment here, and that is, when the message of 1888 came, Sister White did say that, if they accepted it within 2 years, Christ would have come. 2 years would put you at 1890, And what happened there is basically the church should have it's like how the children of Israel should have gone to Palestine a certain time in 40 days, but instead they have to spend 40 years in the wilderness.
Yeah.
So what happened here is that the church should have gotten certain things accomplished by 1890. So they enter into this period of 40 years, the 40 years wandering. So 40 years from 1890 is 1930. So it was like a divine plan that in 1930 something should have happened. It's time to reach the promised land. Okay. So in 1930 was when this man called V.T. turns up in the church, an Adventist in Los Angeles, California, and began now to re-emphasize what Jones and Waggoner was saying pertaining to the 144,000 and the mystery of God being manifested through them. And then through this 144,000, then the great multitude can be realized. So he came up now in 1930 trying to re-emphasize these points of Jones and Waggoner. And again, just as though they rejected them in 1888, they also reject him in 1930. So we have a repeat of history taking place. So if you want to be one of those who are going to be really a part of this sanctified group of people, then you have to operate outside the box, because the general membership will not accept you because you're talking about something the conference don't want you to be discussing. But let me introduce another point here. I was about 25 years old back in Jamaica. And I was well known in Jamaica as a believer of the shepherd's rod. And one day someone brought me a message that the head of the theology department at the Adventist University in Jamaica wanted to see me. And he said, I want to see you, but I want to see you at 10 in the night at a certain location. The professor. Okay. So I said, well, that's interesting. The professor wanted to see me. So I went there at the place appointed, 10 in the night, and the professor said to me, Brother Archer, I'm doing a research on Revelation 18. And I understand that you guys have a lot to say about Revelation 18. So I want you to give me a study. So I sat down with him and I went through the details, which you can't do right now, but a long details about the fourth angel's message, Revelation 18, the loud cry, the great multitude being brought in by the 144,000, all of that. So while I'm there speaking to the pastor, he says, I ask him, I say, any question, pastor? He said, no question, man. You just keep going. And he has his notebook, and all he's doing is writing. The professor listening to a shepherd's rod believer. And after about a 1.5 hour with him, he said, you need to see me again. I want you to meet me at a certain location. He changed the location now. He says, meet me at this other place. I said, no problem. So I met him a couple of days later at this new location. You know, he's like Nicodemus, you know. Yeah. You don't want nobody to know he's talking to shepherd's rod. You know, he's like a Nicodemus. So at that second sitting, he wanted to know about the beasts of Revelation 13 and 17 and 18, the mark of the beast and all those things. You know, he wanted to get into some deeper waters now. And after another hour with him with those intricate issues, he says, brother, I don't want to hear no more study from you. I want you to give me the shepherd's rod books. I want to read them myself. Say, what? Say, yes, give me the books. The professor who teaches theology at the Adventist at university. And I gave him the books. So many people may hear him speaking, not knowing that what he's saying is something he read from the shepherd's rod book. So behind the scene, he's studying the shepherd's rod, and on the outer courts, he's condemning it. But behind the scenes, he's studying it. The professor at the university. This is what we have going on. You know, I can give another instance of that. I went to another church. I mean, not another church. I went to a particular elder, and I was studying with him, and he loved what I was giving him. Every Tuesday, I go to his house, and we studied. But I never go to his church yet. So I decided to go to his church one day, one Sabbath. And when I went there, he cursed me. Brethren, we have false shepherds among us, wolves in sheep clothing, and he carries on, you know. I said, who is that talking? Wasn't that his house last Tuesday? And then I was just observing him. And when I reached the door to shake his hand, because he was the preacher, he says, Brother Archer, don't you be mindful of what I just say, man. Tuesday, we still meet. So quietly he studied the shepherd's rod, and openly he condemns it. And I have had many, many experiences like that. These elders who you may hear condemning the shepherd's rod, they are secretly studying it. And they preach it in a restaurant, but you don't know. You know, that's reality.
Yeah. But so, now, VT Hotef, why do you think this your message sparks controversy? Are there some events maybe that happened that could have led to this perception? And it's kind of a universal perception.
Yes, because it is portrayed by the leaders. So most members think one way, not knowing the facts, you know. I may enter another point. There are some theological differences that would really let the ministers say to you, don't talk to a shepherd's rod believer.
Okay.
I'll mention one. Now in Revelation 4 and 5, we have the judgment scene mentioned there. That's going on in heaven since 1844 with, you know, God the Father sits on the throne, 24 elders, 4 beasts, and the Lamb and Jesus Christ standing in front. Then it says, he that sat on the throne had a book in his hand with 7 seals, wrapped with 7 seals.
Yeah.
Now, the church interpretation of the 7 seals is that it represents 7 periods of time in the Christian era.
Okay.
And that's what any Adventist pastor or elder will tell you. The 7 seals are 7 periods in the Christian era. So Hotef comes along and says, let me correct you, brothers. Since the judgment that began in 1844 takes in those who first live upon the earth, so possibly the first name in that book is Adam, then this book has the history of the world in it. Not 2,000 years of history. It must have the history of 6,000 years. So here we have this man, VT, that comes along and is contradicting the church's interpretation of the 7 seals, because he says it is 6,000 years period, they say it's 2,000 years period. So definitely we don't want you around, because you are contradicting our fundamental doctrine. I mean, not really fundamental, but you know, something that they believe. So there is one major point where the church would really don't want you to listen to the shepherd's rod because you are contradicting the 7 seals. And the 7 seals has to do with judgment, and our main message is judgment. So here it is. Our main message is a judgment. Fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come.
Yeah.
Yet, we don't understand it. Because we're saying in the book, in his hand, is the history of the world for 2,000 years. Major error. Need to be corrected. The 7 seals covers 6,000 years. And we can get that from the Adventist book called Manuscript Releases. It is there. Ellen G. White explains clearly. The 7 seals covers 6,000 years. So, again, they don't want to be contradicted. And they don't want to be humiliated, because if I'm going to prove to you that you're wrong, who wants to be humiliated? It's an old-time problem. It's the same like thing with the Jews and Jesus and the disciples. The Pharisees and the scribes, they were just against the disciples because the people were listening to the disciples. Because they think the disciples were saying more important matters. So it's just the same problem going on here. It's just jealousy and pride. Nothing is wrong with the shepherd's rod message. I've been studying it for the past 50 years and I have not seen anything wrong with it. And I've met many, many, many big dogs in the Adventist church. And whenever they see me, they tremble.
So what's the difference between the judgment that Ellen White talks about and the judgment that the shepherd's rod talks about?
Okay, see, the judgment that began in 1844 is in 2 phases. And that is the problem. If you go over to the Great Controversy 490, it shows you there that the judgment began in 1844. It starts with the dead and finishes with the living. So basically, as a member of the Adventist church, you are just thinking that God is judging the dead. But one day, this judgment is going to move to the phase of the living. And when God begins to judge the living, we're going to see things taking place literally in the church. There will be a cleansing, a purification, you know. So nobody really wants to talk about the judgment of the dead, the living, because it is too tragic. You know, it's scary. But that's what needs to be done here. The church needs to be taught about the judgment for the living. And that's the main focus here. When God judges the living, he comes to his Adventist church and he says he's going to cleanse his church. And when God finishes cleansing his church in these days, 144,000 will survive. But they're not the only living saints. The 144,000 who survive the judgment of the living, God will endow them with the outpouring of the Holy Spirit to go to the Gentile nations with the Pentecostal power and bring in a great multitude, billions of people, into God's church. Other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them too will I bring in. That's when that's going to take place.
Are you in any way going to execute the judgment of the living, you as rod believers?
No. There's no such concept. But sometimes, I've heard them, the ministers, saying, be careful of the shepherd's rod. They're talking about a slaughter of Ezekiel 9 and they may want to kill you. No, there's no such thing. We're only here to inform you of God's plan. His plan to purify his church. We will be involved in nothing like that. It is in the hands of the angels. Wheat and tears grow together until the harvest. Only the angels can do the separation, not man. So we have no thought, no concept of selecting 144,000. We're not selecting 144,000. We will not be executing no judgment upon the tears. No such thing. They say those things to make you get scary. As if say, well, these bunch of folks are fanatics, heretics. Be careful of them. No, nothing like that. We are normal people.
Why should God purify the church?
Now, why would God purify his church? Now, I hope I could get to a reference here. But the whole idea is that God intends to bring in a great multitude into his church from the Gentile nations. But he wants to bring these people in a clean church. If you should bring in new members into the church, a corrupt church, then what's going to happen? Everybody's going to be corrupted. But when God's come, he must find a church pure to give to his Father. So that's the plan. I must have a pure church to present to my Father.
So the church is not pure?
No, and everybody will acknowledge that. Today we have wheat and tears. But it is God's agenda that one day he will purify his church.
Now, is the church Babylon?
Well, the question is the church Babylon? The church is not Babylon. Even though sometimes when you really look in the church, you see Babylonian practices. But it is not Babylon. You can have a child who is really misbehaving himself, but is your child still, right?
Yeah.
The Adventist church is God's church, not Babylon. And we're not trying to take you out of it. You're in the right church, but you need to get your act together. So that when the cleansing work comes, when God brings judgment upon the church, you can be among those who are saved. Church is not Babylon. But I've heard many ministers, oh, be careful of these brethren. They call the church Babylon, and they're here to call you out of Babylon, take you into another church. The Shepherd's Rod doesn't have a church. I've been in Adventist church over 50 years, and every Sabbath I go to Adventist church. I don't have another church to go to. I'm a Seventh Adventist.
But and also maybe that brings us to obviously if you find that reference you could just say it. That brings us to another point here. But why do you operate separately from the channel of the Seventh Adventist?
But if you understand God's agenda, things will be clear to you. No, in Matthew, it says that the Lord has two servants in his church. He says one servant is given meat in due season, and one is smiting his fellow servants. So in the church, we have two classes of people. And to understand that, you have to just refer yourself back to ancient history. Jacob was God's chosen. Well, let me get a little further back. Esau had two sons. Isaac, pardon me.
Yeah.
Isaac had two sons, Esau and Jacob. Now, Isaac's wife was barren, no children, and they went and asked the Lord, what's going on here? I'm supposed to be the progenitor of a great nation, and my wife have no children. So eventually, the Lord intervened, and Rebecca had a pregnancy of a twin. And she said to God, why am I thus? I asked for one, you give me two. It says, two nations are within your womb. So Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Ishmael represents the Old Testament church, and Isaac, the New Testament church. So Isaac was old when he got his wife pregnant. So it means there that somewhere in the latter part of the Christian era, which is the Isaac period, there's going to be a pregnancy in God's church. Two classes of people will be in there. And that's where we get the Esau and the Jacobites. And that's why you may hear the story here that there's going to be a Jacob trouble sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a crisis in the church with the Jacobites and the Esauites. So for you to understand prophecy, you have to understand type and antitype. Because all of these is what really leads to what the future is going to be. So within the Adventist church today, there are two classes within the same one church. The Esauites and the Jacobites. We have those who are given meat in due season, and those who are eating and drinking like the drunkards. So there is a division there. So you have to choose whether you're going to be among those who are given meat in due season, or you're going to be among those who are enjoying worldliness and eating and drinking with the drunkards. It's just reality. It comes out again with the same thing with the 10 virgins, 5 wise, 5 fools. So the 10 virgins are with the Adventist church. But a part of the Adventist church are represented as 10 fools, foolish virgins. And we have the 5 wise. The 5 wise, the Bible said, had extra oil. See? But the 5 fools didn't see the need of carrying extra oil. But in the final analysis, the 5 fools are going to the 5 wise and say, please give me some of your oil. So I could relate that to the point here where we have the church in general accept the 3 angels' message. And then we have another portion who accept the 3 plus the 4th angel's message. So I'm seeing those with the 4th angel's message as those who are carrying a little extra oil.
Oh.
See?
Okay.
They have a little extra something here that the rest don't want. But what it probably shows here that those 5 fools one day will realize the need and say, hey, give me some. But the Bible says, what? You're too late. So if there's going to be a need of this 4th angel's message, this extra oil, you better get it now. Because soon it'll be too late. You may realize it too late.
Yeah, great. Great stuff. So, there's a notion that the message of the Shepherd's Rod is too legalistic, just too legalistic. What's your take on that?
Well, it's not legalistic. Those who want to do their own things, in Isaiah 7, it says 7 women take hold of one man. And they said, just marry us. We'll eat our own bread and wear our own clothes, in Isaiah 7. Meaning here that there's a class of members in the church who only want the name, Seventh Adventists, but they don't want God's business. We eat our own stuff and wear our own clothes. I mean, many churches you go today is a fashion show, you know. So we'll say, listen, you need to dress properly. You need to eat properly. And then that's when they say we are legalistic. But if you want to be among this purified 144,000 who will never die after they are sealed, then you better get your act together and begin to live like a Christian. So anytime you want to live like a Christian, a real good Adventist, they will say you are legalistic. But I have no problem with that. I want to be saved in God's kingdom, and I want to be among this special company of saints, the first fruits, who shall stand Mount Zion with the Lamb.
Yeah. Is it a cult?
Cult. Now, I remember back in the days of this big controversy about David Koresh, right? You have heard that name, David Koresh. And they said David Koresh was a cult. And it was on CNN, and it says, define to me a cult. They said a cult is a movement that there is one person there dictating what they should do. It's a cult, a one-man band.
Yeah.
And then somebody asked the question, okay, since you want to put David Koresh as a cult, which I think is a cult, you know, because I know him personally.
You knew him personally?
I know David Koresh personally. And the person brought up the other question and said, what about the Seventh Adventist Church? Aren't you led by a woman? Maybe you're a cult too. Because everything you seem to believe is sanctioned by this woman. So, the Davidians are cult. What about Seventh Adventist Church? You're cult too? You know, that was an issue came up those days. You know.
Yeah.
Now, we are not a cult. We are led by the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. It's just that V.T.O.F., in everything he tried to present, he went to the Bible or the spirit of prophecy. So if we are a cult, we are not following Hotep, we are following Sister White. The Bible and Sister White, because that's all we really follow.
Yeah.
You know, but we don't believe the Adventist Church is a cult either, you know, but the Lord does say that in the last days, the remnant church will have among them the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. So God has a plan that in the last days he will speak through his inspired messengers in the last days. And we believe Ellen G. White is an inspired messenger of God. And why? Because when you read her writings, you can see it is all in line with the Bible, you know. But the word cult will really make you scared, you know. So they says, be careful, a cult, you know, a cult, be careful. And those words are used just to scare you. But all you have to do is do your own research. You know, do your own research and you'll realize what a cult is. But I am not following a cult. I am not following V.T.O.F. I'm following the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. So I can be in line with Revelation 12:17, the woman that has the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, law and testimony. Yes.
Yeah, Minister, I know we are almost running out of time. Production keeps on ringing the bell for me, but I wish we have again a part 2 of this before you leave the country. Would want to listen more on the David Koresh part, but anyway, we might not have that luxury of time to do it now. I've just, you know, before I ask you to make an appeal, is it from David Koresh where you borrow the name Davidian? No.
You see, Brother V.T.O.F. died in 1955, the founder of the Shepherd's God Message. And in 1955, when he died, David Koresh wasn't born yet. So the name Davidian, Seventh Adventists, there were Davidians exist before Koresh was born. You know. Now, many people would ask me, are you a branch Davidian? I said, no, I'm not a branch Davidian. I'm a Davidian. So David Koresh is another issue by itself.
Yeah.
Now, when I met David Koresh back in 92, somewhere there, I understood that he was a Davidian. And he said to me, Brother Archer, I want to give you a study on the 7 seals. I said, why you want to give me a study on the 7 seals? I have a book written by Hotep on the 7 seals. And he said to me, oh, no. Don't bring that man Hotep to me. Don't bring Hotep to me, brother. I am the prophet. So David Koresh is another category of prophets He has nothing to do with Victor Hotef.
Yeah.
You know, I know it for myself. He's telling me, don't bring Hotef stuff to me. So David Koresh is not a true Davidian. A true Davidian is not. And I'm not a follower of David Koresh.
Okay.
So the true Davidian is altogether something different from the branch Davidian. So the branch Davidian is another issue by itself. You know, so I'm not a branch Davidian. I'm not a follower of Koresh. You know, so we just need to correct that.
Yeah. I definitely will need to do a part 2 of this. We'll try and see the possibilities of doing that. Now, Minister, as we come to the end of just this episode, I will make an appeal to the Seventh-day Adventist at large, the church. Given this chance, many of them will be watching this episode. What message do you just want them to hear that you've been trying to put across all these years, though facing a lot of difficulties delivering it, but this free space, just make that appeal to them. Yeah.
Now, I happened to visit the General Conference in St. Louis, Missouri, a few months ago.
Yeah.
The Worldwide Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I put together a document. It's called I Will Go, because the theme of that joint conference was I Will Go. And I put together a document on that, I Will Go. And I would encourage everybody to ask me or find how they can get one of that document, I Will Go. And in that document, I presented to the Worldwide Adventist Church. I presented that document. We printed maybe about 10,000 of that document. And we presented it to the General Conference. And if you were at the General Conference, you may have seen that document. It's called I Will Go. So in that document, we explained the necessity at this time for the church to prepare itself for a second Pentecostal experience. And, you know, these days, many Adventist camp meetings are saying, you know, Pentecost, second Pentecost. It's like it's in the air, a second Pentecost, you know. So we want the brethren to research this idea as to the second Pentecost, because without that, this church cannot finish its work. You know, so another big issue we are facing here is that a part of the message of the Shepherd's Rod is to explain the details of what is going on in the Middle East. You see, what is going on in the Middle East at this time is the fulfillment of prophecy. That war with Israel and Gaza and all the other nations are involved is a prophetic war. So we're putting the 144,000 aside. That's another major issue. The war in Gaza, where will that war lead to? You see? A part of what we believe is that in the last days, God is saying He's going to gather back together the 12 tribes into the Holy Land. The Jews are only descendants of Judah and Israel. I mean, Judah and Benjamin, 2 tribes. The Jews are descendants of 2 tribes only. God says in the last days, I'm going to gather back all 12 tribes. And that's the reason why you notice that in Revelation 7, the 144,000 they're categorized in 12 tribes. 12,000 from each tribe. See? So when God gathers that 144,000 from the 12 tribes of Israel, that's when you have the consolidation of the two portions, Judah and Israel. Now, the Jews in Palestine right now are saying, well, we are the guys, we are coming back to take care of the Holy Land, you know. And that's why they are so adamant. We are going to conquer this land, it's our land. Now, that document and that whole issue is also in this document I put out on the current events in the Middle East. I Will Go. I will ask everybody to get that document, because then they will understand the future of the church and the future of the nations. That would be an appeal. Now, anyone can contact with me, and I could just send it to your WhatsApp. That's the easy way these days. I don't have to give you the book. I can get it to your WhatsApp, and you can go through the details and do your research.
And I think we'll be able to get it and put it in the description so that people can be able to access it. So there you go. This has been YTT. My name is Derrick Munyinya, your host as usual. Till we meet you again. Bye.